And thank you for joining us. With us is Stefanie Arblaster with Mind Body Wellness Center at Meadville Medical Center. Stephanie, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
We're going to continue talking about just the mind body wellness side of Meadville Medical Center.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I was raised here. I'm a local. I'm from Sagertown. I graduated from Sagertown High School. And then I had a very similar kind of path as Bethany. I also went to Penn State for my undergrad degree. Originally didn't plan on going into nutrition, and then, had to break down in the career counselor's office.
Wow.
And figured out that
At Penn State or high school?
At Penn State.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of embarrassing, but so then I went to Penn State and then, did my dietetic internship. I just recently finished my master's degree in May, so that's exciting.
Congrats.
And then, I'm a baby dietitian. I've only been here for about a year, but I'm loving it so far. And that's a little bit about me.
Well, so we'll kind of go back a little bit. In high school, where did you think you were going to end up? What did you want to be?
So in high school, we had to do like a senior project, and it was like just a presentation on what you were going to do. And I was going to be an anesthesiologist. I was going to go the med school route, all that stuff, and then I had my first semester of chemistry, biology, and I said, I don't think this is for me. It's just not, what I want to go into. And then I was kind of going through some health changes myself, and really wanted to help other people do the same, and more of the education piece of it. So that's kind of how I started to want to get into nutrition. So.
You mentioned talking with, I would imagine, somebody at Penn State about a career path, right? And this was brought up. Was this something you thought, oh, I've never heard of this, or I didn't realize that was something I could pursue? Like
being a dietitian, you mean? Yeah. I think I'd always known that it was a career path that I could take, but I didn't realize how rigorous it was. I know, since kind of wanting to make my own changes myself, I'd always loved reading things online about like, what do carbs and proteins and all these things do. It was kind of, I don't want to say a hobby necessarily, but kind of something that I did a lot in my free time just to help myself. And then once I feel like I got a good handle on it, knowing that that was a route that I could go and, help other people do kind of the same thing, I was like, boom, there you go. I'd love to do that, yeah.
So did you find as you're reading and studying that you're like, okay, some of the stuff's good, some of it's not, or it really should be different for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well.
Because that goes into that conversation, right?
Yeah.
Dietitian
yes,
versus.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's a really good question. I think that I initially tried to do a lot of like American Heart Association, like things that are a little bit more credentialed, I guess you could say. But I definitely stumbled my way across some, sketchy blogs from nutritionists and health coaches and things like that. And not to say that people with those titles are wrong by any means, but I definitely saw some things that wasn't the biggest fan of. Once I got further into my undergraduate degree, knowing what I knew, I was like, maybe it's not the same for everyone. Maybe it's important to look at all aspects of someone's life in regard to nutrition changes. So yeah, for sure.
Did you have that like aha moment where it's like, okay, I'm really loving this? Yeah.
I definitely think I actually didn't have that moment until my junior year of college. So, specifically with the nutritional sciences degree, the first 2 years are all your prerequisites, right? Like Bethany said, organic chemistry, your microbiology, all of that kind of stuff. And not that I didn't enjoy those classes, but I definitely was eager to get into kind of the weeds of it, more like the nutrition focused classes. But yeah, once I, took my first semester, it was all like nutrition. I definitely was like, I actually got better grades my junior and senior year than my freshman and sophomore year. So I think that's telling a little bit too. Yeah, exactly. Got to give myself some credit there, right?
Now, so you graduate and you continue on with the education.
Yes. Yep. So it's, I think they had actually changed it recently, but it's 1,000 hours of what they call supervised practice. So I always compare it to like your rotations in like med school or something like that. So obviously not as rigorous as med school, but kind of similar. You just go, through different rotations, different facilities with different preceptors.
Here's the real world aspect.
Yeah, this is, you know, so there's clinical, which is like hospital. There is food service, which is like managing a kitchen. It's more of like the management side of everything, which I always think is interesting. Definitely not my favorite, but you know, it's a really great field to get into if you don't want to do direct patient care. And then there's outpatient, which is what I'm doing now. Community, so things like WIC. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with nutrition that, you know, I don't think a lot of people know, but it was definitely an awesome experience doing my internship for sure. Yeah.
Well, we'll come back to that comment you just made about not a lot of people know. We're going to talk about the range, but how did you get back here, back home, back to Meadville Medical Center?
Yeah, so actually in my undergrad, we had to do like, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was pretty much just like a mini internship. I think it was like only 200 hours or something like that. I actually did it with Bethany here at Mind Body Wellness. So that was like my first time, honestly, ever shadowing a dietitian or seeing really what an outpatient dietitian did. And then in my internship, I actually did a distance option. So my college that I did my internship through was actually based in Allentown, which is near Philly.
Wow.
But they had like a distance option where I could live at home, save money, all that good stuff, and do all my rotations locally. And I did another one of my more official rotations with Bethany again here at Mind Body Wellness. And then all the stars aligned as the minute I finished, or I passed my exam, and here I am. So, and there was an opening and I took it. So kind of just worked out exactly how it was supposed to, I guess.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, welcome back.
Yeah.
You know, there's been a lot of conversations about students who graduate, you know, how do you keep them? And it's not bad to go out and see what life is like out there, but it's also okay to say, hey, you can make a difference right here at home.
Oh, 100%, yeah. I think I knew that I wanted to stay locally just because I'm a family person. I love my family. I wanted to always stay close. I did consider going away, but you know, you got to think about financials. You got to think about loans. So definitely a better option for me. But I did have a lot of friends that went out to California and went to, you know, Boston and things like that. So I think it just depends on the person. But that was the path that I took for sure. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that range and what people might be surprised to know, because everything at Mind Body Wellness Center, I mean, there's such a range. We learned a little bit with Bethany and diabetes, but overall, kind of give us that range of what people might be coming in to see you.
So me and Bethany always describe it as like a primary care office for nutrition. So there's obviously insurance requirements, like some insurances will cover this code and not this code. So, you know, sometimes there's a little bit of, I don't want to say difficulty, but you just have to pay attention to that when you're referring to our office. But I mean, oh my gosh, it's everything. So diabetes, obviously, a large one's weight management. So either weight loss or weight gain, GI conditions, so things like gastroparesis, Crohn's disease, diverticulosis, eating disorders even. So just, it can really be for any nutrition related problem. They can, you know, make a referral as long as the insurance will cover it. So definitely in my first year being here, I've, you know, had to learn about a lot of things that I never thought I would be talking about, like, you know, these weight loss medications or vitamin and mineral deficiencies, you know, a bunch of different things. I'm definitely learning a lot, but you see a lot of different conditions for sure.
Yeah. And we're recording this in the summer months, so you're getting some vitamin D and stuff, but in wintertime.
Oh man, it's terrible. I can even feel it myself. Yeah.
The referred part is interesting. When you're talking with your primary care physician, are you, is the patient, I mean, obviously if there's health issues, that should be something to be considered. Yeah. But if you're okay, but you personally think, I'd like to do better, should they have that conversation to see if that referral can be made? Yeah,
and like I said, I think it depends largely on insurance, right? But what happens sometimes is not always what somebody is referred for is what we talk about, right? So like if I get a referral for diabetes, maybe they don't want to, maybe their A1C is well controlled and they don't want to talk about diabetes and we talk about weight management, right? So it just kind of, that diagnosis code needs to be there, like the referral needs to make sense, but it doesn't mean that, oh, this is the only thing that we can talk about, right?
And that could be a big step for somebody to say, okay, I really need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
I want to feel better.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we talked a little bit with Bethany, and maybe you can highlight some of this stuff again. You start eating well, you start exercising.
Yeah.
What happens to your body as you start doing this stuff? We can talk about sleeping better, more energy. These are all things that people talk about all the time. I wish I had more energy. I wish I could sleep better.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, and it really depends on the person, but I always like to say to people, what are we doing 85-90% of the time, right? Yeah, like, we can eat cake and we can enjoy ice cream, but that has to be more of the 10-15%. If a majority of our calories are coming from this, that, or the other thing, and it's not making us feel good, our body's just running off of that, right? But if we can kind of make that shift towards more of the balanced meals, that absolutely can cause better sleep, better energy levels, because you're giving your body better fuel. But there is a place for everything in the diet, I believe. But I just say, what's that ratio of this to that? If it's more this, let's kind of fix it that way.
Do you follow whatever the current trend is at the time? Because it seems like every couple months or years, there's some big thing that everybody talks about. Yeah. Here's the diet that everybody's on.
I don't personally follow it, but I have to learn about it because that's all my questions.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the keto thing's huge. I always talk about people who maybe grew up in like 80s, 90s when it was low fat. Now it's the carnivore diet, and then it's this, that, or the other thing. So I definitely try to keep up with it just to learn like the research and the literature on it so that I'm not telling someone that's something that's completely out of whack. But I think, most timeless is consistent, balanced, healthy eating, right? There's maybe things that we can take from these diet trends, right? But, you can't go wrong with a consistent, balanced, healthy meal. Nothing can beat it. Yeah.
So what you're telling me is my Billy Blank's Tybo is probably outdated, and I should probably sit down with you or Bethany.
You should make an appointment with one of us.
And have that conversation. Yeah. But it is interesting, and it's hard not to fault somebody who's trying to do the right thing.
And it's definitely difficult to learn sometimes how to like word that, like, hey, this is your goal, this is what we're doing, what are ways that we can meet in the middle so that we're both happy, right? It definitely can be a difficult conversation, but you got to meet the patient with where they are, and if they're not ready to accept that, hey, eating this, that, or the other thing isn't benefiting you or making things harder for you, you just have to be there to support them through that, provide them with the education, and then kind of go from there.
So when it comes to food, obviously diabetes becomes a big topic, but there's other things, cancer, Alzheimer's. What you eat, what you're putting in your body can have an effect on other diseases.
Yeah, absolutely. I always encourage people to think about that 85-90% rule that I always tell people, because I find that, and this might seem kind of like the opposite answer that you might be expecting, but I think that people focus so much on one thing, right? Like I'll get somebody and they're like, what's the one food that I can eat that's going to cure this or prevent this? And I'm always like, here's the education on it, fruits, vegetables, fiber, whatever it is. But there's not one food that can cause or cure a disease. It's multifactorial. It's based on that 85-90%. So obviously providing that education, but also trying to reiterate that cancer doesn't happen from eating McDonald's once, right? Alzheimer's doesn't happen from drinking one glass of wine or something like that. You know what I mean? It's a cumulative kind of thing that happens. Yeah.
So you recently did a talk, I believe at Westbury, on this.
Yeah.
Is this something that if other groups have an interest in getting more information, you can go out and speak to those groups?
Absolutely, yeah. So you would just need to contact myself or Bethany, or if one of our managers or something like that, and they can we can exchange contact information and talk about what would work for both of us. I've also done some talks at CASH, in Conneaut Lake to some of the sports teams. I know Bethany has done some for dance classes. So, as long as it's appropriate and it works works for everyone, that's definitely something that we're able to accommodate. Yeah.
And that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And the earlier you can get somebody introduced to that healthy lifestyle.
Absolutely. 100%.
And to get into that routine,
yeah.
right?
Yep. 100%. So.
Yeah. It's always fascinating. And people can go to the website and see some of the tips that you provide.
Absolutely. So we've been working with Jenna a little bit, to do, and also some of the other dietitians in the area as well, for some healthy eating tips, recipes, that kind of stuff on a bunch of different topics. So you can definitely see those all on the website and get some more information there.
Well, here's something, as it's hard to believe kids are going to be going back to school, but that routine of running around and sporting events late at night and quick drive-through meals.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that?
Yeah.
Because that's always because even families who are diehard, we're going to make sure we're eating right, get into that thing where they're picking their kids up at 9 o'clock at night after a game.
Yeah.
And
something that I always encourage people to think about is the preparation piece of it, right? So there's that preparation piece, and then there's like actually doing it, right? So if we can take 10, 15 minutes on a Sunday night when things are maybe hopefully a little more chill, who knows, but that tends to be, whenever you have time, 10, 15 minutes, look at your week and say, okay, this is what I got this day. Maybe that night's a pizza night, but then the other nights, let's do, something at home, right? That grocery shopping piece of it, right? So can you include in that 10, 15 minutes, hey, I'm gonna look in my fridge, what do I have? What do I need? What's a general kind of idea of what the meals are gonna be, and kind of go from that way. It does take a little bit of preparation though. It takes a little bit of that intentional leap, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But it's definitely difficult for sure. Yeah.
That's sort of what's needed, right? That discipline.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
And discipline or consistency, preparation, all of that kind of stuff. But if you can just take that time and just plan out what's going on throughout the week, it'll make it a lot easier.
Well, what's a former Panther do to relax after work?
I watch Love Island a lot.
Okay.
That's what I do after work. And I hang out with my family and stuff, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any hidden talents?
Oh, man, I don't think I have any, honestly. I'm really kind of boring.
No. Boring would be like spending, 4 hours drawing a pineapple.
Yeah.
That would be boring.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I don't know anybody who would like to do that. And kudos to all the art teachers out there.
Yes, very much so.
Stefanie, this was a great experience. Learned a lot.
Yes.
Thanks for all you do to keep Crawford County healthy.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it.
Happy to help.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us.